Diba? Kaya hindi ko
No.
makapag-dive. No diving. So what keeps you busy now?
Well, me, cooking. I've been playing around in the kitchen a lot. There's more time. Painting, talks, dumami yung mga lectures. I've been also giving free lectures on my own. Naghahanap ako ng audience. So things like this is great. Thank you very much for the invitation.
Okay. How about you, Miss Leia?
Siyempre, alam mo yan, Mark. Sobrang busy. Because alam mo naman that I'm handling the operations of our official learning management system. So we're doing our training right now, our teacher training. So kami yung support team. So maraming mga issues na kami yung nag-address. So super busy, but coping.
Okay. So the goal of this session is to really onboard our teachers, most especially those who do not have the capacity to, say, for example, form their own online classes and, of course, use the techniques that are necessary to make sure that the learners are engaged. And, of course, for them to start their own digital classrooms. So let's start our session. So we'll start first with Ms. Leia. Ms. Leia will talk about learning instruction design. Okay, so take it away, Ms. Leia.
Okay, for a while. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so good morning again, everyone. So I'm here to share with you my insights as a UX designer. Na-mention ni Mark kanina na ako ay isang web designer/developer. So I create learning experiences. Yun ang aking expertise. And of course, I'm also a multimedia arts instructor. So I teach computer subjects since 1999. So ayan. So, what I will be showcasing for today, of course, I will be giving you some tips on how to design your course content to enhance student engagement and, of course, to achieve the learning outcomes. Okay, so what you need. Okay, these are the things that you need for today. So, the first is a Google account. So, bakit mo kailangan ng Google account? Kasi later, I'll be having my demonstration on how you will organize your content using some third-party applications like Canva, Padlet, Mentimeter, and Slides. Okay, and then of course I'll be demonstrating you. I'll be having my demonstration also on how you will transform your course outline to a learning experience design plan. So kung meron po kayong mga course outline dyan or syllabus, i-ready nyo lang po siya para makasabay kayo sa demonstration ko later. So let's begin. Ayan, start na tayo. Okay, so ayan, our functions as educators have evolved. Nag-agree po ba kayo sa akin? Ayan, our role right now is not just to teach or to promote learning. To teach what we know and what we're good at. Okay, dati, pwedeng kahit tayo lang instructional tool na, di ba? Tatayo lang tayo sa harap and then mag-work na siya. So, and then dati rin, we used to present our content using instructional tools such as yellow paper, cartolina, diba? Flashcards, OHP tapos may whiteboard marker. So ngayon, nag-evolve na talaga. And of course, this new normal pushed us, mas pinush pa tayo nito to evolve to upskill ourselves and become learning designers. Ayan. So again, our goal as teachers right now is not only to teach or to promote learning, but to transform our content to something interactive and gamified for us to level up the engagement of our students. Ito lagi ko po sinasabi sa mga talks ko. I mean, digitizing your content is not just simply like converting your modules to PDF file and then make it available online or converting your modules to a PowerPoint presentation. Hindi po siya ganon. Okay, you should be creating learning experiences. There should be a process. Okay, kung paano i-consume ng mga estudyante nyo yung content. Okay, so it's about thinking beyond modules and create learning experiences using learning experience design strategies. So, LXT. Okay, so this is my definition of LXT. It's a combination of user experience and of course, instructional design. So, parang dalawang discipline ko po yan na pinagsama. Ayan. So, it's the process of designing and organizing content in a platform to enhance student engagement. So, bakit po ba? Why LXD? Okay, so, Ito po yung reason behind it. Okay, so of course, we all want an effective learning experience design. Because ito po, marami na pong research na nakapag-prove nito that learning experience design is correlated with student engagement. So, ibig sabihin, kung effective ang LXD nyo, that means na may engagement na mangyayari. And then if your students are engaged, okay, alam nyo na merong meaningful learning experience na mangyayari that could transform, of course, our learners. Ayan. So, now, let's move on to the process of LXD. Okay, ito po yung process. Based po siya sa design thinking. Kung familiar po kayo sa design thinking, ayan, si Sir Jag Garcia po yan, expert po yan sa design thinking. The LXD process is based from the design thinking process. So, we have discovery also, then we have define, curate, develop, learn, and evolve. Ito po yung gagawin natin sa next session natin. So, magde-demo po ako habang nagdi-discuss sa inyo. Okay. The first step or the first process of LXD is discovery. Okay, I think this is, lahat naman siya importante. Yung 6 na process na yun importante. Pero ito yung, lahat ng basis ng ibang processes based po dito. It's about understanding the learners and assessing their needs. Ayan. So, it's about knowing the users. So, bibigyan ko po kayo ng sample scenario. So, sana nakikita niyo yung screen. Ayan po. Mga totoong communication po yan ng mga estudyante ko last term. Because we offered online learning last term. So, ayan yung mga pain points ng mga estudyante ko na naging basis ko in redesigning my course syllabus and my course plan para sa upcoming term. Yung first issue po dyan is about a student having a difficulty in class. So I teach coding, I teach how to connect an application in a database. So medyo mahirap kung hindi naman sa mahirap siyang ituro, but kung mali ang manner ng pag-present nyo ng content, maaaring hindi maintindihan right away ng mga estudyante. Okay, so napansin ko, yung in-offer kong curriculum, may problem sa readiness or may problem sa pag-deal with the difficulty or for pag-deal with the readiness of my students. So, isa yun sa pain point. Okay, another pain point of my students. A student having a difficulty with access. Ito po. Meron siyang sinabi dito na nanghiram pa siya sa kapitbahay, hanggang sa kumuha siya sa ng computer sa office ng mom niya. So, something like that. So, the thing to look into in this particular scenario or this particular pain point is the mode of delivery. I cannot just simply deliver my class in a synchronous format kasi hindi po lahat ng estudyante ko ay may access all the time. So, I need to transform my content delivery to asynchronous instead. Ayan. So, yun. Next, a student having a mental health issue. So, ang daming issue po, no? Actually, marami po yan. So, yan lang muna yung showcase ko. So, mental health. So, how do you deal with mental health issues? So, it's about looking into how you are going to communicate with your students. Siguro kailangan sensitive kayo sa instructions nyo and very sensitive din kayo sa communication nyo. So, kailangan meron kayong, iiral ang pagiging, ako kasi nanay ako, so iiral pagiging nanay mo talaga in giving instructions or directions to your students. Especially for those students na feel niyo yung anxiety nila. Ayan. Next, number 4. Number 4 is the type of activity. In Benilde po kasi, especially in multimedia arts, we always do collaborative learning activities. Kasi, we do collaborative activities plus problem-based activities. So, sometimes, hindi na nakakonsider kung paano ba yung grouping na ginagawa sa mga estudyante. Itong particular scenario na meron ako dito, nagkaroon ng problem yung estudyante ko in dealing with her groupmates. So, what I need to look into is, paano ko ba dapat sila i-group? I-group ko sila by friends or random lang? So, ayun. So, these are just some pain points of my students. Okay, and if I will not be addressing these pain points, of course, eto po ang magsasuffer, or this area will suffer, which is the student engagement. So student engagement has something to do with the students' attention, their focus, their interest to learn something, and their optimism to be motivated to learn. So, kung hindi ko po i-consider yung, or i-address yung pain points na yon, ito talaga ang maapektuhan. And for us to know more about student engagement, we have to identify kailan ba engage ang mga estudyante natin. So meron po akong isang quiz dito. Maybe you can take a photo of the QR code, and this will direct you to the survey or to the quiz. Or you can just i-present ko na lang po dito, and then sabay na lang po kayo sa akin habang i-discuss ko. Ayan. So refresh ko lang ng konti yung page. Okay. By the way, this content is created using H5P. Ayan po. Favorite ko pong tulang H5P sa pag-present ng content. Okay, it's an interactive content tool. You can combine your presentation and at the same time your quiz. So ayan po. So I want you to experience this also. Okay, so let's take a quiz. How will you know if your students are actually engaged with you online? And how do you know if your strategies are working? Number 1 scenario. When the students react, according to the lesson with expressions of happiness, surprise, and concern. So this is very obvious. This is an example of an emotional engagement. Very obvious po sa terms natin. Reacting with expressions. Ayan. Next. Okay. Ayan. So when students ask in-depth questions and that go beyond the material presented. So again, this is very obvious. I mean, student asking in-depth, so merong higher order thinking skill na pinakita yung estudyante. So this is an example of a cognitive engagement. Okay. Next. When students respond promptly to your directions. Okay. So if it's a task-based requirement, okay, this is an example of a behavioral engagement. Okay, the on-task behavior. And then, of course, we have number 4, which is when students make connections to other ideas that offer insights accordingly. So, again, okay, this is going beyond the material or going beyond, so this is cognitive engagement. Okay, number 5 is when you introduce the lesson with your incredibly funny and not so funny anecdote and the students really listen to you. So whether masaya sila or not, okay, nakikinig pa rin sila. So it has something to do with their behavior. Okay, so this is an example of behavioral engagement. Okay, now the next one. When students respond to questions with enthusiasm. Ayan, the word enthusiasm would mean, okay, that this is an emotional engagement. Okay, next. When students contribute to group discussions according to the parameters set by the teacher. Okay, hindi natin titingnan kung happy ba siya or hindi, basta nag-participate siya. So it has something to do with the attitude or the behavior of the students. So this is behavioral engagement. Okay, then number 9, when students offer insightful comments. Again, this is going beyond the usual. Okay, so may ownership. It's about pulling information from content they previously learned. So this is an example of a cognitive engagement. Okay, and then of course, number 9, when students complete the assignment and turn it in on time. So this is an example of course, a behavioral engagement. Okay, so, and of course, the last one is, the student is focused and seems to be enjoying the work. Ano po kayang type of engagement ito? Of course, okay, enjoying the work would mean an emotional engagement. Okay, so now, these 3 types of student engagement would allow you to, of course, to reflect or to this will serve as a signal. Signal po yan sa atin kung engaged ba ang ating mga estudyante. Ayan, so if you want to experience the quiz, ayan, pwede po yung picture nito. Binigay ko na po instruction nito. Or you can just go to mentor.online/3-types. Ayan, i-post na lang po natin later. Okay, so that is the first step. The first step is knowing your user. The second step, of course, is to define, or to define or obtain insights and define the objectives and goals. Okay, na kailangan po natin ng course syllabus or course outline natin dito or our lesson plan. Ayan. So, of course, what you need to do in this particular step is to go back or revisit your learning outcomes. Okay, alam naman po natin ito na lahat tayo gusto natin na at our learning outcomes can answer the questions what the student will learn, why they need to learn the topic, and how they will learn the topic. Okay, so you do this by coming up with a measurable outcome, okay, or smart outcome. So again, we have to consider what will students be able to do and how will, that students have learned. So some things to look into in step number 2. Now, number 3. Okay, number 3 po yung isa sa mahirap na part ng process. It's about curation. It's about selecting the relevant content to showcase. Hindi po natin, masaya pong i-include lahat ng sources. Gusto nating isama lahat ng sources natin or isama lahat ng content, but we must identify the must-have from the nice-to-have content, especially if we are to deliver it in a flexible learning environment. Okay, kung maaari po mas structured at mas direct to the point ang ating pag-deliver, especially for the content. Now, so part of the curation of the content is knowing the technology requirements. Ayan, meron po akong sample syllabus dito na ginagamit namin sa program namin. Okay, so nakalagay po dun sa revised syllabus namin yung technology requirements first. Okay, mag-fit ba yung content ko? Example, this H5P. I want to make use of this H5P and I want to integrate this with our LMS. Pero possible po ba? So kung hindi siya possible, might as well look for another content dev tool na lang instead kasi hindi siya pwede. Okay, next. Okay, connection. Example, you have a 1 GB, 1 gig video file that you want to share, okay, with your students. But considering the access issue of your students or the connectivity issues of your student, okay, medyo mabigat para sa kanila to download a 1 GB file, okay, or 1 gig file. So, instead, gagamit na lang tayo ng ibang content. Okay. And then, of course, tools and gadgets. Meron kaming survey sa Benilde. So, 50% of our students are using iOS devices. So, that means that we cannot just simply use a Flash content kasi hindi po sinusupport ng Apple ang Flash. Okay, so something like that. So, part po yun ng curation. And of course, part din ng curation yung considering the mode of delivery. Kung paano natin i-deliver yung content na yun. Is it in a real-time mode or is it in a self-directed mode? Okay. Now, let's move on to the fourth process, develop. So, eto na po yung prototyping part. So, gagawa na tayo ng structure, ng learning design plan natin. Okay. Hindi nyo naman kailangang i-digitize na to. 5th step po yung digitize. Okay, so in the 4th step, so this is now, how do you structure? How do you structure your course content? My structuring technique here is based from my experience as an educator for 20 years. So, ito po yung, this is the way, sa pag-review or pag-analyze ko po or pag-assess ko ng learners' needs, ito po yung way kung paano madaling nakukuha ng mga estudyante yung lesson. First, okay, recall or review. There should be a connection from your previous topic to your new topic. Okay, kailangan magsisegue muna kayo bago kayo mag-introduce right away ng new topic. So, recall is very important for me. So, this particular structure, nag-work po ito sa akin. Okay, so maaaring sa inyo, meron kayong ibang structure. But what you can do is you can look into your lesson plan. Okay, ito naman po, ang basis ko lang din dito is yung lesson plan namin or yung course syllabus namin. Okay, second is the introduction or the presentation of the content. Okay, introduction or introduce and present. And then we have the practice, of course, the application, then reinforce, okay? And then, of course, assessment and evaluate. So, ito po yung course structure. Meron din po akong sample dito ng course content ko, course content namin sa Mintar 1. So, subject po namin yun sa multimedia arts. And then of course, nung ginawa ko po yung pag-structure ng course, nilagay ko na rin po yung resources after nung structure, after nung process. Let's say for example, for the review, anong particular resource ang gagamitin ko sa kanya? For the introduction, anong particular resource and particular mode of delivery and yung time allotment. Nilalagay ko na rin po siya doon. Okay. Next. Okay, so of course, part din po yung assessment tool. So, in writing or in doing my prototyping, especially in rewriting or revisiting the course syllabus, nilagay ko na rin po. Let's say, for example, I have my pre-assessment test. So, a pre-assessment test is an example of diagnostic test or a type of diagnostic assessment. So So my quiz 1 is my diagnostic assessment. My assignment number 1, which is a problem-based learning or a group work, a collaborative work, but individualized submission, is an example of a formative assessment. So formative, and it's something authentic kasi real-world scenario po yung gagawin ng mga estudyante namin dyan. Okay, and of course, the instructional strategies. For the instructional strategies, nag-work pa rin yung didactive kagaya nito. Didactive, using lecture and demonstration. And of course, nag-work especially po sa amin wherein we have different types of design challenges para sa mga estudyante namin. PBL and prototyping works. And of course, collaborative work. So ito po yung based sa mga needs ng mga estudyante namin. Now, the learn part is the digitization part. So, ito po yung magde-demo na po ako. Ayan. So, the learn part is about organizing your content for a better learning experience using an LMS or Google Classroom. So, in our case, ang gagawin ko pong example ay Google Classroom. So, magsiset up po tayo. Okay, first is, of course, to set up our Google Classroom, we need to go to classroom.google.com. So, ayan. Mag-demo na po ako. Okay. Okay, the first thing to do, of course, is to create a class. Okay, ang gagamitin ko pong course structure ay yung kung paano yung natin, yung course flow natin ngayon. I mean, ang gagamitin ko pong course structure or course design ay yung learning experience design session ko. So, gagawin ko siyang LXD Eskwela. Ayan. Okay, section is 101. And then later, pwede po kayong mag-join ng class. Okay po. Okay, subject is LXD. Okay. Then let's create. Okay. Wait lang po. Nako. Medyo maba. Ayan. So, there you go. Okay, so this is the cover, this is the landing page of our LXTE Eskwela course. Okay, mamaya ko po i-share ang class code sa sa Facebook ko na lang i-share for those who would like to experience my learning experience design topic in Google Classroom. So, I'll just update the theme later. Proceed na po tayo sa course design. Okay, so ito po yun. So, after setting up, okay, the next thing to do is to create. Nagawa ko na ito. Okay, ito po ang ating prototype. Ito po ang sample output na gagawin natin today. Take a look on how I organize my content. The first, ang tawag po namin dito sa Benilde ay Module 0. The Module 0 should contain the course objectives and requirements of the course. That should include the learning outcomes or the syllabus and then the resources. And then of course, this is our prototype for the Eskwela course design. So the introduction, presentation, application, lalagyan ko lang po ng reinforcement. And then of course, evaluation. Okay, so ito po yung gagawin natin. Okay, so I need to go to classwork to assemble my content. Okay, anong sabi ko po? Meron po tayong dalawang main topic. The first topic is the course requirements. Okay. So let me add. Okay. Yeah. It is very important po to design our course in a manner kung paano sila i-consume or paano sila i-digest ng mga estudyante nyo. Ayun, course requirements. So, and then of course, let me add another topic, which is letter B. This is now the course design. Okay, course design, course flow. Ay, sorry, bakit letter D yung na-type ko? Okay, rename. Letter B. Okay, so rename, and then, okay, so we have two main topics now. We have the course requirements and the course design. So under course requirements, ano pong ating suggestion sa course requirements? So dapat meron tayong, we should be including the course syllabus. Okay, so number 01. So I'm assembling the content in a sequential manner. Okay, so this is the course syllabus. Okay, so I'll be using a Google link. I'll get my syllabus from the Google Drive link. Okay, so I think meron na akong sample syllabus dito. Ayan, sample Minter 1 syllabus. Ayan, so I just need to add, of course, if we have time. Okay, we'll add. sample, okay, syllabus, or add syllabus, add content, or add instruction, add description. Okay, a content for course syllabus. Okay, so the next thing to do, of course, is to set the topic of this one. Of course, this is under course requirements, and then you have to post. Okay, so after posting this, you will be redirected to the classwork page again, and then you need to create another content. Okay, so I need to create a content for the tech requirements. Okay, tech requirements and resources. Okay, so let's say, for example, you need an account. Okay, set up an account on Padlet. Lalagay natin. Go to Pad. This is the resources. You need a Padlet.com account. You need a Canva account. Okay, so that, okay na muna yan. Okay, and then of course, the topic is under course requirements again, and then you post. Okay. Okay, rename natin. Kalimutan ko yung number. Sorry. Okay. Okay, it is very important na may mga gumagamit tayo ng signs and symbols as our clue. Okay, next. Okay, let's have the third one. This is very important. Okay, number 3 is the contact information of the teacher. Okay, contact info. Okay, in this particular section, you have to post here your social media account. Okay, your social media. Hindi naman po kailangan phone number and then your email. Depende kung paano nyo gustong makontak ng estudyante nyo. Okay, so this is under course requirements again, and then post. Okay, and then okay, there you go. So this is our course requirements. Now, let us proceed to the course design. Okay, so the course design is very important. Ito na yung LXT natin. Okay, now, I'll be having 5 steps, okay, in the course design, in the structure. The first one is an introduction. Ito, parang nasabi ko na kanina kung bakit or why I need a course introduction. So, of course, you cannot just simply jump right away to your main topic, di ba? So, you need to introduce first. Kailangan mo na i-condition nyo muna yung mga estudyante nyo. Di ba? So, let's create an assignment. Gagawin ko siyang assignment. Okay, so this is 01, introduction. Okay. Kunyari, meron kayong special question of the day that will serve as their introduction activity. And gagawin nyo siya sa Padlet. Familiar po ba kayo sa Padlet? Ayan. So, Padlet, okay? So, it's a tool for you to be able to create, okay, different types of interactions such as a wall, a canvas, okay, a stream of content from your students. So it's a collaborative content tool, okay, to use as your motivational activity. Ayan. So usually ginagamit ko siya as a motivational activity. So let's say, for example, I want to create a wall, and then that wall should answer the question, how are you feeling right now? Sige. Anong feeling mo today? How are you feeling? Okay, how are you feeling? Okay, so next is, okay, after setting up, okay, the next thing to do is, of course, okay, start posting. Your student can post on this Padlet. Okay, public po yan. Okay, and then the title is, I'm challenged. Diba? Challenge. Okay. Yeah. And then, yung maganda po dito, pwede silang mag-add ng videos nila or ng photo nila to supplement their answer to your challenging statement or to your question. Okay. And then it will be posted right away. Now, to share this to your Google Classroom, okay, all you need to do is just to click on the share option and then copy link. Okay. Copy Padlet URL to clipboard and then go back to your classroom and then add this as a link. Okay. Okay, paste, add link. Ayan. Okay. Okay, so I can now assign a due date. They have until June 23, or you have until June 23 to answer this. And then this is under course design. Okay. So, ayan. There you go. So, kita nyo naman, very organized and very straightforward ang aking course design. Because the navigation, in creating your course design, the navigation is very important kasi yun yung magli-lead sa kanila dun sa pinaka-takeaway nila to tell you ano ba ang natutunan nila. Yun yung po yung evaluation. Nasa 1 pa lang tayo. Okay, next, assignment number 2. Assignment number 2, the create number 2 is not an assignment but a material because I am to present now the lesson. Okay, so I need the material. It's not an assignment. So number 2 is my presentation or the lesson proper. Okay, for the presentation proper, ano pong tool ang gagamitin ko? Okay, familiar po ba kayo sa Canva? Okay, ako sobrang happy ko sa Canva. Ayan, sobrang happy ko. If you want to sign up in Canva, all you need to do is just to make use of your Google account, sign up or sign in using your Google account, and then after signing up or signing in, okay, you'll be redirected to this page wherein you have the option to create your design. Ayan. So let's say, for example, you want to create a design and you want to create a presentation. Ayan, ibibigay na po sa inyo lahat ng themes or yung mga themes, hindi lahat yung mga themes na available na pwede nyong i-reuse. Okay, so let's say for example, medyo nahihirapan kayo sa pag-combine ng colors when you create your presentation. So might as well use Canva instead. And then you can modify naman. You can change the font, you can change the graphics, and etc. Okay, so ayan. Nung ginawa ko po yung presentation ko for today, I used Canva muna. Parang doon ako nag-prototype. Nag-prototype ako sa Canva. Actually, ginagamit ko to for prototyping. Ayan. So, see, this is my presentation. So, and it's more dynamic compared to other presentation tools. Okay, so you can do animation, you can embed websites. Ayan, nag-embed po ako ng mga websites dyan. Okay, so what I will do is, of course, I'll be sharing this to my Google Classroom for you to be able to experience this. Okay, so I can just share the link to view. Okay, and then I'll go back to my classroom and then this will be the content of my presentation. Okay, so this is a link again. Okay, and then paste and then add link. Okay, so this is, ay parang mali. Parang mali yung na-copy. Okay, copy link. Okay, so add link. Paste. Okay, so there. This is the Canva presentation now. So this is under course design again, and then I have to post. Okay. Okay, so this is my second part. Now the third, okay, so that is the present, the step when the teacher introduces your information, ayan, and then of course reinforce. Remember when I introduced to you the topic about engagement, I did a reinforcement. Okay, there's 3 types of student engagement is an example of reinforcement. Kaya gusto ko po yung H5P kasi maraming reinforcement activities, hindi yung diretso ka lang ng presentation. Ayan, so I can copy this link and then add as a reinforcement. Okay, so this is an assignment again that the student should, so reinforcement. Okay, this is a support to your presentation. Okay, so a link is, okay, add link. Okay, due date, they have until June 23 to answer this. And then the topic, it's a course design. Okay, so let me assign this. So I have my introduction. So I introduce the student to the topic, I presented, and I have my reinforcement. Now, the next thing to do, of course, is the application, the actual application of learning experience design. Example po, kung course talaga natin ito. So, you will be doing your application now or your practice. So, tawagin natin siyang application. Application. Okay, for your application, okay, na-preset ko na po ito. Meron na po akong LXD canvas. Okay, so I have here a lesson plan or learning experience canvas that you can use for you to be able to prototype your course design flow. So ayan, class period, objectives, your mode of delivery, it's either asynchronous or synchronous. The course design is your content flow, the resources, the instructional strategies, and of course your assessment. Okay, so I'll be sharing this. Okay, so I need to copy this and then go back to my classwork. This will serve as your application. Okay, paste and add link. Okay, and then of course, this is under course design again. You have until next week to finish this and then assign. Okay. So there you go. That's number 4. And last but not the least. Okay. The last, okay, so we need to practice. Okay. And then of course, the last one is to evaluate. The evaluate is the step when a teacher helps the student to look back, learn from, and celebrate the learning and their learning process. Okay, it's enough. Ako, lagi kong ginagawa to. Nilalagay ko to sa pinakailalim. I do self-evaluation and group evaluation. Okay, and I would like you to experience this one, the 3-2-1 strategy. Okay, and we'll be using a forum or a survey, a Google survey. Okay, so you have to post 3 things that you learned from this session, and then post 3 questions that you still have, and then post 1 aspect of webinar that you enjoyed. Ayan, so ilalagay ko na rin po sa Google Classroom. Okay, so let's create an assignment. That is an assignment again. Okay, so this is the last one, which is evaluation. Okay, and then I'll add a Google, the quiz here, the 3-2-1 strategy. So I'll add here. Okay, due date is until next week again, and then topic is course design, and then I'll assign. Okay, so there you go. So we're done with the learning experience design. Okay, it's straightforward. Okay, hindi masyadong overwhelming. Pero if you will look at if you will check my goal for today's session, posible bang ma-achieve ko through my course design? Yes. Okay, so this is an example of how you will organize your content. Ayan, so I use sequential po. Ayan. So, there you go. So, hindi po nagtatapos. Yung number 6 kasi, evolve means iterative to. The next thing to do, of course, is to test this to your users. Okay, I can test this kasi i-share ko sa inyo later yung Google Classroom link. And then, if nakita kong mataas ang responses or mataas ang engagement, then I could tell, okay, nag-work yung structure ko. But if in case hindi siya nag-work, I need to redo it again. I need to review again. Okay, go back and then redesign. Okay, so that is step number 6. Okay, so before let me just showcase some of my sample courses in our existing learning management system. So this is for my UX class or UI UX class, Mentor 1. So I usually divide the course module into weeks. Ayan. So, and last, okay, to end this session, so let me just end this with a video from Ken Robinson. Ayan, so
education and our lives as human beings are not linear. That's an industrial idea, that you start there and you get there. Our lives, if they're anything, are cyclical and kind of recursive. That there are moments of growth. There are seasons of personal growth and development and seasons that are fallow. And it's not over until it's actually over. And that, the very old, like the very young, still have enormous amounts to find out about themselves if the conditions are right. And I feel it's the great role of a teacher. When I was saying moving to a different metaphor, an organic metaphor, I think it's going from an industrial metaphor to back to an agricultural one. Because if you think of a great gardener, great farmer, depends upon plants growing under their care. Otherwise, they're out of business. But the irony is that every farmer and gardener knows that you cannot make a plant grow. You cannot do that. You don't stick the roots on and paint the petals and attach the leaves. The plant grows itself. What you do is provide the conditions for growth. And great farmers know what the conditions are and bad ones don't. Great teachers know what the conditions of growth are and bad ones don't. And with bad teaching, all this potential of students shrivels in the face of it. With great teaching, all this stuff starts to flourish and to flower. And that to me is the great gift of teaching, to recognize that growth is possible at any time. Like in Death Valley, in the most deathless place on earth, there's life there if you know what the conditions are. And the great challenge for teaching, I think, is not just to know your discipline, but to know your students and to know what the pedagogical regime is that will make them flourish and become the best thing they can be. And I think that it's not just something for the young, and increasingly it's something that we should see as intergenerational rather than just something that happens at the beginning of our lives. It should endure throughout the whole of it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, so as Ken Robinson quoted in the video, so we have the power and duty to create the best conditions for our students to flourish. So let's take advantage of this opportunity, or let's take advantage of this power and take this pandemic as a challenge, and as an opportunity for us to design better learning experiences for our students. Okay, so let's reflect on the current learning designs that we have. Let's review, let's revisit, evaluate, and transform. Okay, just as our world and our students are changing, are always changing, so must our designs for learning. So that would be all, and thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Leia.
Salamat.
Yay!
Yay!
Salamat, Ms. Leia, sa pag-share nyo. Mga ka-eskwela, so sana po ay may nakuha tayo. Sobrang dami nating natutunan today. Actually, na-miss ko na ang classroom. Ay gusto ko na ulit bumalik sa pagtuturo bigla dahil sa learning experience design. May phone-in question po tayo. Paano daw po kapag ang mga bata ay iba-iba ng level of tech proficiency? How do you manage this, or how do you manage your virtual classroom? Kasi di ba po ang situation ngayon is
ano na differentiation ang gagawin mo, parang ganon. Okay,
yes,
kasi may ginagawa ako usually survey sa class. Narinig niyo na ba yan, yung VARC? Yung VARC approach. So nagpapa-survey muna ako kung paano sila natututo, or paano sila madaling matuto. Ayun. So nagpapa-survey ako sa class ko yun sa higher education. Okay, so nagpapa-survey ako kung anong mas fit sa kung sila ba ay visual learner, sila ba ay auditory learner, or sila ba ay kinesthetic learner. And then from that, pag nakita ko na yung ina-adjust ko yung activities ko. Syempre, hindi naman pwedeng yung kinesthetic, puro activity lang nila. So, kailangan din nilang ma-experience ng something for visual. So, ginagawa ko lang varied. Varied yung activities ko na mag-fit sa lahat ng learners. So, baka ganun din yung technique na pwede nyo gawin. Hindi naman ibig sabihin na lahat na lang ng technique nyo ay designed for visual learners. So, gawin nyo ring varied. May experiences para sa visual at sa auditory learners, and etc. Something. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Dea. We'll ask more questions later. Let's move on to our next speaker. Sir Jag, take it away. So Sir Jag will talk about digital storytelling and how will this help us in our digital classrooms.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much, Mark. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Mag-start lang ako ng presentation ko. Quick reminders, mabilis po ako magsalita. So, again, kung may questions or concerns, lagay lang niyo sa chat window. Tapos, and then I think yung mga presentations i-share sa inyo ng Globe Eskwela after this talk. Okay? So, going now to my... Okay. So, good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ngayon mag-focus tayo or pag-uusapan natin ang digital storytelling, or yung paggamit ng mga stories, paggamit ng mga kwento as content, or as way na kung paano tayo magtuturo or madi-deliver yung ating mga course content, yung ating mga lesson content. Now, bago tayo mag-start, meron tayong advantage, or we have an advantage kasi as Filipinos. Actually, as Asians, but even more so as Filipinos, no? And that mahilig tayo magkwento. We are a very literary culture. Our histories, our stories, our mythologies are all built around yung tinatawag na stories or oral cultures, oral histories. So, sa atin, natural sa atin ang magkwento, ang magdrama, ang ang magbigay ng mga insights sa pamamagitan ng paggamit ng kwento. So, bakit hindi natin gamitin? That's also why, we're not as strong analytically, we're not as strong scientifically, or we're not particularly fantastic mathematicians, pero ang galing nating kumanta, ang galing nating sumayaw, ang galing nating umarte, because we're that kind of culture. That's in our DNA. Okay? That's not today lang. This is like hundreds, thousands of years in development. So, gamitin natin, di ba? I-leverage natin yung ating pagiging makwento sa ating sa ating pagturo. Okay? So, put this away. Yun. All right. So, digital stories. Okay? Let's start. Merong sistema or merong school of thought na tinatawag na narrative-based learning. So this is a learning module that's grounded on the theory that humans define their experiences through the context of narrative. So basically, ang short version nito, ang sinasabi nito, is ginagamit natin ang kwento para maintindihan yung buhay natin or yung mga kapaligiran natin. Ang kwento nagagamit or ginagamit by people, or people use it to frame and understand their perceptions of the world. So the most simple way na pwede natin explain yan, yung tinatawag na creation story. And not just the Christian creation story. Lahat po ng kultura, merong creation story kung paano tayo nagawa. So si Bathala, si Malakas at Maganda, Adam and Eve, ang dami-daming iba't ibang klaseng creation stories. And that is so that we understand as people, as humans, why are we in this world? Diba? So kwento, creation story, ginagamit natin ngayon pang understand ng ating existence as a human being. So, what is storytelling? My favorite definition of storytelling is the conveying of events in words and images, often using improvisation and embellishment. Okay? Now, i-break down ko or allow me to explain just the components of this. First of all, the conveying of events. Walang kwento kung walang nangyayari. So, kailangan may nangyayari. Something has to happen. Okay? So, yun yung event. Pangalawa, in words or images. And what this basically says is, yung pagkwento ay hindi lang nangangailangan ng just simple words. You can use pictures, you can use movies, you can use video. Pwede kayo gumamit ng action, ng voice, ng dance, ng music. So ang daming paraan kung paano natin na i-convey or paano natin na i-translate yung ating mga events sa isang audience. And last is improvisation and embellishment. Now allow me also now to separate these two into slightly smaller definitions, okay? Improvisation, ang paggamit ng isang bagay kapalit ng iba. So I will tell you the story, for instance, of how I cooked my breakfast today. But because you are not with me in the kitchen, kailangan ko mag-improvise. So gagamit ako ng metaphors, gagamit ako ng mga pictures, gagamit ako ng demonstration or ng action. Yun yung improvisation. Ano ngayon yung embellishment? The truth of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, is that real life is boring. So you need to add drama. If you want the story to be engaging, if you want the story to be interesting, especially for students, lalagyan natin ng konting drama. Lalagyan natin ng konting bongga. Diba? So, this is the embellishment. Lalagyan natin konting action, lalagyan natin ng konting kulay, lalagyan natin ng konting, tulad ng picture na nakikita natin ngayon, yung sequencing of events. Never naman nagsabay-sabay yung 6 na figures na ito sa isang mundo. Hindi sila nagkasabay-sabay. Evolution kasi yan. But I will now embellish it by showing them in order so that we can appreciate the order of human evolution. Diba? So, again, the conveying of events in words or images, often using improvisation and embellishment. Now, why stories? Stories kasi, well, balik muna natin, di ba? As teachers, most of us are teachers, di ba? Our teachers here. Ang iniisip natin kasi, ang pagtuturo ay pagbibigay ng facts. Tama yon. Ang pagbibigay ng facts, pag-communicate ng facts. The thing is kasi, facts speak to the mind. 1 + 1 is equal to 2. That is a fact. Diba? Hindi natin pwedeng palitan yun. Pero, anong ibig sabihin nun sa ating utak? Na-memorize natin, we understand it, we remember it. We recall it when we need to. A story, on the other hand, speaks to the heart. A story kasi is leveraged on an emotional content. Meron siyang soft na kino-communicate. So, ang story sa heart tumatama. And when you speak to the heart, mas naaalala, mas may ibig sabihin. That is why marami sa inyo, marami sa atin, kung ano-ano pang mga hugot ang meron. Kasi emotional yung attachment. So we remember it and it means something different. So when you tell stories, you are speaking not just to the mind, but you are also speaking to the heart. So there is retention, there is more meaning, there is more connection. Mas importante sa atin ang mga sinasabi natin. 'Di ba? When you use a story, when you communicate a story, okay, you will spark interest. A good story sparks interest. A good story will surprise the audience. To make them, wow, ano nga no? Ay, galing. Wow, hindi ko na-expect yan. Diba? A good story will persuade. Kung gusto mo kasing mag-convince sa inyong listeners, sa inyong students to do something, to have action, you use a story. You don't just tell them. You inspire them. So a good story will inspire action. And facts will inspire nothing. Case in point, okay? Fact. On September 21, 1972, President Ferdinand Marcos issued Presidential Decree 1081 placing the entire country under martial law. That is a fact. Hindi natin pwedeng i-dispute yan. Walang dispute yun. Totoo yun. Fact yun. And that goes into the mind, di ba? Na-memorize natin yun. Ako nga, na-memorize ko, di ba? But if we want our students, for instance, to realize what martial law means, if we want them to understand the suppression of human rights, the destruction of a free press, the salvaging, the violence, the fear, then we tell them a story. We wrap the facts in a story so that they understand what that means at a deeper level. They understand now. So now we understand. Your student 10 years from now might not remember anong September something ata or November ba, hindi ko na maalala. Pero naalala ko kung anong ibig sabihin ng martial law. Naalala ko kung bakit hindi natin pwedeng maulit or we cannot go back to that kind of system. Diba? So there's that. So may ganong klaseng effect ang stories. Now, in the classroom, stories can be used for anecdotes. Ibig sabihin, ito yung mga stories of the past or isang episode ng kwento ng isang tao. Pwede siyang fictional. So yes, pwedeng gumamit ng fictional stories sa isang classroom. Metaphorical. So gagamit tayo ng something in place of another. Again, metaphor. In this case, like yung mga parables sa Bible are metaphorical. Analogous or kinukwento natin ang lesson or kinukwento natin ang pag-develop ng lesson kasabay ng pag-develop natin ng learning dun sa ating estudyante. Personal or reflexive. So this is now a personal story, either your own or somebody's story, but you're telling it from a personal or from an almost first person perspective. The idea being pang-reflect, di ba? Of course, a pre-existing story is isang story na meron na. So something maybe from the newspaper or something na, again, from a book. And of course, an interactive story kung saan yung story ay nagde-develop sa pagtrabaho nating dalawa bilang teacher at bilang estudyante. The students form part of the story or are the ones that build the story. So interactive, di ba? So as right here na nga, ang dami ng iba't ibang tools, ang dami ng iba't ibang techniques kung paano natin magagamit ang story sa ating classroom. Okay? Now, when we're talking about stories now, tingnan natin yung 5 basic story elements. At uunahin ko yung isa-set aside ko na to, yung setting. Yung setting ang nagbibigay sa atin ng konteksto. Saan ginagawa ang kwento? Dahil kung sa saan, ibig sabihin hindi lang yung mismong location, pati yung time. Yung, is it 1895 ba itong ginawa yung kwento, 1971 or 2020 ang story natin. So the setting sets the context, the understanding of how our student or our listener is going to form or mold or scaffold yung ating pagkwento. Okay? Tapos, meron tayong character, whom the story is about. Okay? It can be a person, it can be an object, it can be an animal. Basta may character tayo. Meron tayong goal or kung ano yung gustong ma-achieve ng ating character. Meron tayong conflict. Or ano ang humahadlang, what is keeping our character from achieving that goal. And then meron tayong theme or what the story is about. Allow me now to visualize this a little in greater detail, okay? So tinanggal na natin yung setting ha, kasi setting is context lang naman. Pero tingnan natin ngayon yung tatlong variables na tinatawag ko dito, yung character, challenge, and the goal. So your character over here, yung the left, nakikita ninyo, is who the story is about. Goal is kung anong gusto niyang ma-achieve, kung saan niyang gustong marating. And yung challenge is yung kung anong problema sa gitna kung bakit hindi niya ma-achieve yung gusto niyang marating. Right? Now, pag nagbubuo tayo ng story, when we are creating a story, it is important that your goal is clear, solid, and concrete. Kailangan physical ang goal. Kasi ang character mo ay kailangan either ma-achieve niya or hindi niya ma-achieve. Success or failure. Ganun dapat yung pagtingin natin sa goal. So, hindi pwedeng world peace, hindi pwedeng true love, hindi pwedeng forever ang ating mga goal because these are concepts. Since wala naman talagang forever, hindi natin alam kung ma-achieve yan o hindi. Diba? So, you have to give a concrete to maging girlfriend si Jenny. Mabili ang concert ticket ng paborito kong artist. Makabili ng tinapay sa tindahan. These are goals. These are clear, solid, and concrete goals, which means that if you succeed or you fail, then there is a solid outcome or there's a very clear outcome from that story. So you see? So yung character, challenge, and then the goal. Now, paano ngayon yung world peace? Paano ngayon ang true love? Ano naman ang purpose nun sa buhay? Dito yon sa theme, sa tema. Ang tema is what is your story about? So ito yung conceptual. Nandito yung conceptual element. Okay, ang character ko, si Pedro, ay gusto niyang maging girlfriend or mapasagot niya si Jenny. Ang nakahadlang sa kanya ay ang tatay ni Jenny na strict. Now, this story is about the theme, okay, is now how love will conquer all. So may ganon. Nakita niyo yung diferensya between yung concept tsaka yung goal. Or in another way of visualizing it, it's like this, dito sa Venn diagram na to, na yung character, yung goal, conflict, ito yung mga variables na of one kind of set, one type of variable, and then the theme is separate. Kasi pwede kang magpalit ng theme na hindi ka nagpapalit ng character, ng goal, ng conflict. Same way, pwede kang magpalit ng character, goal, conflict setting na hindi nagpapalit yung theme. For example, Cinderella. We have Cinderella as a story, okay? Pero yung Made in Manhattan ni Jennifer Lopez changes the character, the goal, the setting, and the conflict. Pero it is still a Cinderella story. Clear? All right. Again, if there are questions, feel free to punch them into the chat, okay? So, the next one is, now let's talk about digital storytelling, okay? Ano yung pagka-digital nitong pagkukwento? At its most basic, digital storytelling is the practice of using computer-based tools to tell stories, combining the oral tradition of storytelling with the visual and oral capabilities of digital technology. Again, tingnan nyo ha, combining the oral tradition of storytelling, yung pagkukwento. Dito ko yung sinabi kong magaling tayo as Filipinos. With the visual and oral capabilities of digital technology. So ang digital technology, ang daming binibigay sa atin na tools kung paano tayo pwedeng makapagdagdag sa ating pagkwento. Okay? Pictures, video, platform tulad ng YouTube, music, audio, sound effects, pictures, all of those things binibigay niya sa atin. So, ano ang isang digital story or pagkukwento using digital story as a format? Diba? For unang-una, wag natin siyang isipin na movie. Hindi, it's not a movie. It is a story. Okay? Digital stories are usually personal narratives na hindi ko sinasabing laging ikwento mo or perspective mo. Pero it's sinabing personal, hindi natin pinagkukwento ng ibang tao, pero kinukwento natin from their perspective of a storyteller. Ito ang nakita ko, ito yung ito ang kwento ni Jack at saka ni Jill. So there's a personalness to it. It is your story that you are telling. Okay? It's about 3 minutes long on the average, 20 images at most. Pansin niyo, 20 images lang and it's about 300 words. So pag sinusulat natin to, tinatype natin to, or na-handwritten natin, 300 words. Hindi po siya nobela. Now, what's so great about the digital story, or what are the 7 elements of digital storytelling na which make it so valuable or make it so powerful? Well, first of all, is hindi tinawag na point of view, the point of view. Okay? And the point of view is ano ang point ng story, yung theme nga na sinasabi natin, at ano ang perspective ng author. So ito yung pagkukwento mo mismo, kinukulayan na kaagad ng pagkukwento mo ang kwento. Okay? So pag kinuwento ko yung kwento ng nanay ko, ng experience ng nanay ko, iba yung perspective kung ikaw ang magkwento ng experience ng nanay ko. You see the difference? Because it's more personal to me. So the point of view makes it very important, makes it very rich. Then there's the dramatic question. May question yan, whether spoken or not, sa story, na kinakapture niya ang attention ng viewer at ina-answer at sinasagot sa pamamagitan ng pagkwento. So yung dramatic question. Ang isang digital story ay meron din tinatawag na emotional content. And yung emotional content nga yan, because 1, it is a story, and 2, it is personal. So when I tell you the story of how I spent my summer vacation, let's say stuck in at home dahil dito sa COVID-19, meron siyang emotion kasi nakakapag-identify ka din. The 4th one is the gift of your voice. Yung boses mo. Yung ginagamit mo yung sarili mong boses, pagkwento, it makes it very personal. Not a machine, pero your voice. Next is, of course, the power of the soundtrack. Digital technology allows us to put music in our story. Di ba minsan pag nagkukwento tayo sa mga barkada natin, nilalagyan natin ng music tsaka ng sound effects. Tjan, tjan, tjan! Ginaganon natin. Digital storytelling allows you to put music and make it more dramatic. Then, of course, economy. Yung 300 words na yan allow you or force you to tell only what you need to tell. So yung kwento mo nakafocus dun sa pagkwento, hindi sa pag-background story, hindi sa pag-describe ng characters. And last but not the least is the pacing. How you tell the story, how fast and how slow, how loud and how soft, changes the way that the story is received by your audience, changes the way that they feel for the story. Okay? Now, let's digest, okay? I'll just review it one more time. The point of view, the dramatic question, emotional content, the gift of your voice, the power of the soundtrack, economy, and pacing. So these are 7 elements of digital story that make it so powerful and what you can really leverage on. Yung pwede nyo talagang gamitin to make it more effective yung pagkwento. Once again, paano natin siya magagamit sa ating classroom? Pwede niyong gamitin siya pang-explain ng konsepto. Okay? Explain the concept. Pwede niyong, or introduce a concept. Meron kayong bagong gustong i-explain or bagong introduce na topic. Pag-uusapan natin sa klase, bibigyan natin ng, we'll have a discussion. Pero first, watch this 3-minute video. Diba? Ang galing niya kung paano niya i-contextualize ang pag-uusapan. It gives a voice to students because digital stories are not just nagagamit ng teachers, nagagamit din siya ng student. Ang dami sa mga estudyante natin takot or hindi marunong mag-recite, ayaw. Pero binibigyan natin sila ng boses sa pamamagitan ng paggamit ng digital tool. Kasi pwede namang sa bahay nila gawin at hindi sa lab ng classroom kung saan i-judge sila ng kanilang mga kaklase. It's a creative tool for presentations, research, and analysis. Imbis na nanonood tayo ng isang mahabang PowerPoint presentation, makikinig tayo ng isang 3-minute na video. Diba? And it opens up opportunities for reflection and introspection because it allows you now to think. It allows you to sit back and say, oo nga no, or di kaya, oo nga no. Diba? Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I've got 3 videos that I will show you. I will show you. I will turn up your volume or you can use your headphones para mapanood natin ng itong mga digital stories na ito. Okay?
It was quiet, starry night. as the last guard fell into deep sleep. Itigil yan! Isang paglapastangan yan sa monumento ni Gat Jose Rizal! Startled, the statues and structures around the park came to life, and they all went to the city hall to see what the fuss was all about. Tama. Mula sa kinatatayuan ko, photobomber nga siya, the Carabao said. But I'm not breaking any laws, Torre de Manila protested. And the mighty city hall lit up and proclaimed, "That's correct. It's perfectly legal for him to stay there." Photobomber, photobomber, the Carabao insisted. And Lapu-Lapu tapped his sword and said, "Isa siyang higante na mangingibabaw sa aming lahat." Calmly, City Hall said, "Imagine the jobs and taxes from all this. Why don't we ask the others?" Then General MacArthur stepped up. "The world's loveliest sunset I've found at the Manila Bay, and that's why I said I shall return. The more people living around the park, the more people will appreciate and care for it. That's what I think. Let me call my friend Daniel Burnham, Manila City Planner, over Skype." And all the way from Baguio, Burnham said, "Hey General, when I designed Manila, I envisioned a Capitol building right behind the monument." So yes, architecture was meant to be a backdrop for the monument. Still unconvinced, Lapu-Lapu said, "Sabi ng Historical Commission, may visual dominance daw dapat ang mga monumento. Kung ano man yun." No. How can a 12-meter tall monument assert visual dominance over a huge park? Unless, of course, it's taller than my shrine in QC, Manuel Quezon replied. Then, losing his patience, San Lorenzo Ruiz said, "Diyos ko, tanawin kaya natin ang mga bayani sa Makati." Still on her horse, Gabriela Silang said, "In fairness, mas madrama ang mga selfie ko pag may mga churva sa likod ko." Then the most modern of our heroes, Ninoy Aquino, spoke. "I think these buildings give context and scale to the monuments. I just love it when yellow confetti are falling from them. And in pictures, at least, hindi ka nag-iisa. Doc, what do you think?" As everyone turned to listen, Rizal spoke. "Ang kabataan ang pag-asa ng bayan. Isn't freedom and progress the ultimate goal for our struggles against Spain, America, and Japan? And isn't architecture and a dramatic skyline the symbol of a city's progress and aspirations?" Still, the Carabao said, "Photobomber, photobomber."
Okay. So that was a digital story by Jimmy Hermogenes, talking about or opening up discussion about yung Torre de Manila in Rizal Park. Okay? Yung debate na, is it a photobomber or not? Diba? So ayun yung mga different points nilagay niya. Let's do a second one.
Ang arte ng teacher ko. Ang daming hinihingi. May pa-site sources pang nalalaman. Ba't di na lang niya i-google? Wala pang Google at internet noon, pero ganyan na ganyan din ang pakiramdam ko noong nasa kolehiyo pa ako. Ang masaklap pa, parang hindi rin alam ituro ng prof namin yung nire-require niyang APA. Kapag tinatanong namin kung ano ang APA, di niya kami masagot. Gagalit pa. Basta, ang sabi, kailangan naming sumunod. Kung papaano, bahala na kami. Ang saya sa college, diba? Na maglaon ng panahon, nangahas akong sumali sa isang essay writing contest ng Philippine Star. Imo-imuhan ang peg ko noon kaya naibuhos ko sa pagsusulat ang lahat ng aking nararamdaman. Uso na ang email noon at magkahalong pride at takot ang umiikot sa dibdib ko nung ipinadala ko ang aking sinulat. Makalipas ang isang linggo, sa gitna ng Sunday ritual naming mag-ina, ay nasilayan ko ang aking mukha at pangalan sa libreng kopya namin ng dyaryo. Tama ba ang nakikita ko? Ma, nasa dyaryo ako at hindi ako wanted. Yan ang gusto kong isigaw. Ngunit ang nag-uumapaw na tuwa ay nauwi sa biglang pagluha. Nag-alala agad si nanay. Hoy, okay ka lang? Naku, natuluyan na. Bakit ka biglang umiiyak? At doon sa Jollibee, sa kanto ng Quirino, kami sabay nag-iyakan. Nagtawanan. Doon ko rin nalaman na ang hirap din palang kumain ng manok kapag sobrang saya. Makalipas ng ilang araw, hinanap ko ang article ko sa Google upang maipagmalaki ko ito sa mga kapatid kong nangingibang bansa. Lumitaw ang titulo ng aking gawa pero hindi sa lahat ng mga ito ay nakakabit ang pangalan ko. May isang vlogger na taga California ang nag-post ng essay ko sa site niya. Tinanggal niya ang pangalan ko pero lahat mula titulo hanggang huling salita ay akin. At mukhang enjoy na enjoy si Cherry Pie 162 sa pag-ani ng mga papuri sa mga comment sa vlog niya. Sumasagot pa siya at nagpapasalamat sa mga papuri. Pwe, nakakasuka. Gusto kong magwala. Gusto ko siyang saktan, ipahuli sa pulis, isumbong sa United Nations para ipakulong sa Manila City Jail. Magnanakaw! Sumulat ako sa kanya ng ilang beses. Pilit na pinaamin ko na ninakaw niya ang nilikha ko. Hiniling ko na lang na aminin na lang niya na hindi siya ang sumulat noon. Kahit wala na ang pangalan ko, wag lang niyang angkinin. Hindi niya ako sinagot at bagkos pinablock pa niya ako sa website niya. Realistically speaking, anong laban ko? May magagawa ba ako bilang isang ordinaryong Pilipino? Ni hindi ko nga siya mapuntahan dahil ang layo ng California at ni hindi ko man lang malaman ang tunay niyang pangalan. May nagsabi pa sa akin na I should just take it as a form of flattery dahil maganda siya kaya kinopya. Pero hindi flattery ang nararamdaman ko. Galit. Galit na ninakawan ako. At dahil wala akong magawa, kinailangan ko na lang tanggapin ang pangyayari. Makalipas ang 2 taon, nag-masters ako sa DLSU. Napakahigpit ng naging mga profesor ko, lalo na sa citations. Magkulang ka lang ng isang tuldok, mali na agad. Malimutan mo lang ilagay yung nagsabi, kahit di mo sinasadya, plagiarism na. Noong umpisa, laging madugo ang papel ko pagbalik sa akin sa dami ng comments at mali. Tsinaga ko na lang kaya natuto rin ako. Ang mga kapwa kaklase ko, nariringgan ko uli ng mga parehong reklamo ko na sinasabi ko noong college ako. Pero ako, di ako makapagreklamo. Dahil alam ko ang pakiramdam ng manakawan ng isang bagay na walang katumbas. Hindi gamit, hindi pera, talino. Ikaw, kaya mo bang magnakaw?
Okay. So, that was made with Adobe Spark. May nagtanong na sa chat kung paano siya ginagawa. One more story. Yun.
Once upon a time, I found myself embarking on yet another adventure. I was a diver with a fair amount of experience. I've been to some pretty cool places, and I've had so much fun over the years. I was happy where I was, and really believed that there was nothing much more that I should learn. And suddenly I was given the chance to try something different, to do something different, to be something more. The sun rose on a new day, and the ocean beckoned me home. But I found myself in new territory. I began to struggle. All of a sudden, I was Jon Snow, and I knew nothing. It was back to school again, with math and physics and algebra all rolled into a couple of days. It was drill, dive, lecture, drill, dive. And after that, you had to study. And more than once, I questioned myself, why was I even doing this? Should I even continue? But you know, there were people that continued to believe in me, and their faith kept me going. And so I didn't give up, and training went on. And before I knew it, training was no longer hard. Training suddenly became fun. What I learned was, it was all just really a matter of changing one's perspective. So now there are going to be new adventures. But I ask you, what's yours?
Okay. So, Those are 3 digital stories. They were all created on Adobe Spark, Adobe Voice, depending on which year they were created. Just the idea, diba? So the photo bomber introduced a new concept or parang take-off point ng ating mga discussion sa classroom ngayong araw. Di ba? Pag-usapan natin ang photo bomber nga ba or hindi ang Torre de Manila. Yung kay Diana, yung talino, pinag-uusapan naman niya yung bakit importante ang citations. Anong ibig sabihin nito? Yung citations tsaka yung intellectual property. And then the third one is really more of a reflexive document about understanding or becoming complacent in what you already know and undertaking new adventures, doing something new. So these were 3 different stories, all of them under 5 minutes long. May ikli, pero ang dami na nating pwedeng pag-usapan, ang dami na nating pwedeng pagbasihan ng mga diskusyon. So how do we write a story? How do you write an engaging story? What can you do? So I'll just go through this really quickly. Yung Freytag's triangle or yung typical na story arc na natutunan na natin, yung beginning and middle and end na parts ng itong story na to. The beginning is where you introduce the character and the backstory. The middle is your problem-solving process. Di ba may goal kasi siya? So how does your character overcome the challenge? Maraming conflict or gumamit tayo ng conflict because conflicts move your story. Okay? And the third part, the end, is overcoming the ultimate challenge. Ano mga realizations natin or ng character natin at coming to terms with those decisions. So yun ang 3 general parts ng ating story. Pero ang pinaka-importante when you're telling or you're developing or you're writing a story is this arrow underneath. Yung transformation. Kailangan may change. Kailangan may transformation in the journey of your character from point A to point B. Kailangan may nagbabago. Pero anong transformation yan? It can be a physical transformation. Tulad ng yung caterpillar na magiging butterfly is a physical transformation. Nagpalit siya ng anyo. Pwedeng ganon. Pwede siyang psychological transformation kung paano tayo nag-iiba ng pag-iisip, ng pananaw, ng perspective. Pwedeng spiritual na transformation. Ibig sabihin yung pagpapalit ng loob or ang paghahanap ng enlightenment or paghahanap ng freedom or paghahanap ng or pag-discover ng redemption are spiritual in nature. Pwede ring environmental, hindi lagi kasi lahat ng change, ng transformations ay nangyayari sa tao. Tulad ng mga pelikula tulad ng 2012 or A Day After Tomorrow, kung saan yung transformation is environmental or kung paano nagpapalit yung mundo and how do you, as a human being, adapt to this changing world. Okay? So remember that you need a transformation. Now, yung iba sa inyo magtatanong, okay, paano tayo magsulat ng story? Okay. Well, wala tayong time to finish that whole now, pero pwede ko kayong iwan ng ganitong klaseng framework, yung SWS strategy or someone wanted something na strategy. Paano natin siyang pwedeng gawin? The blanks natin to. First, somebody. Diba? Somebody wanted something. So, sino main character mo? Sino siya at anong konteksto niya sa buhay na ito? Wanted to do something. Wanted to do what? Ano ang gusto niyang gawin? Okay? Yun yung goal. Tapos, but, ito nangin yung conflict. Ano ang hadlang? Ano ang challenge na nakahadlang sa kanya? And, now what happens? So, ano ngayon ang mangyayari? Ano ang gagawin niya? And lastly, ito ang magiging resulta ng ating pagsasalakay. Okay? So, take a picture of this or it will be in the handouts later on. Kung yung strategy na to, it's a very, very simple, very good start kung saan kayo pwede mag-umpisang magkwento. Now, next tanong. Paano natin siyang gawing interesting? Paano ba natin siyang gawing exciting? Bibigyan ko kayo or iwan ko kayo ng quick kit or itong mabilis na resource na pwedeng parang formula na para makagawa tayo ng medyo madali at masayang kwento. 5 parts po siya: hook, setup, run, big moment, tsaka resolution. Pasadahan natin ha. The hook. Yung hook, literally hook. Namimingwit kayo. So pag kinapture na ninyo ang audience ninyo with something interesting or big or bam! Parang yung sa photobomber, di ba? Tahimik sa ganun, bam! Ano yun? That's a hook. Captured ka na. Hindi ka basta-basta mawawala. So in 1 to 2 sentences, you should literally hook your audiences, capture their attention. Next is setup. 3 to 5, no more than 7 sentences. The actual beginning of the story, ito na yung setup mo na yung premise, backstory, nasaan tayo, where are we located, intindihin natin. Kaya wag niyong buhusan ng nuknukan ng daming mga detalye. Enough lang to communicate your setting, your context, your backstory. Set up kasi. 3 to 5, no more than 7 sentences. Then you go on the run. Ano ang the run? Ito na yung journey. Ito na yung pag-solve ng problema. Ito na yung bulk ng kwento. 65 to 75% of your story is the run. Kung paano minimit at ino-overcome ng ating character yung mga challenges niya. Okay? I-build up mo ang pag-build ng challenge niya kapag papunta doon sa climax, ika nga, sa big moment. Tsaka tayo aabot ngayon sa big moment. Itong key part ng story, yung climactic part nga sinasabi. The decision point of your character, or di kaya ito yung main learning point, or dito talaga tayo matututo. 3 sentences maximum lang po yan. Get to the point and get to the point quickly. Now, tapos na yung kwento, nag-climax na. May dalawa kayong options. Mamili kayo ngayon as a teacher, as a storyteller. Do you go to the edge? Ibig sabihin, bibitinin natin yung kwento para ang students natin ang mag-explore ng ending, or itapos natin yung kwento. Tapusin natin yung kwento para pwede natin ngayon pag-usapan o ang consequences o ang mga desisyon na ginawa ng character. Yung kay Diana, yung talino kanina, that is an end. Yung photobomber, that is an edge. Okay? You see the difference? So, showing that to you again, ito yung mga parts niyan. Okay? Your hook, capture your audiences, set up the place, the premise, our understanding, their context. Go for the run, the conflicts, yung pag-build up papunta sa isang big moment or big learning moment. And then, yung resolve natin yung buong issue, and we either go to the edge or we go to the end. So may options kayo, mamili kayo kung anong path ang kukunin sa pagbuo ng kwento. So this, ngayon, isusuperimpose ninyo doon sa SWS strategy ninyo. O yung pagkaintindi doon sa Freytag's triangle ng beginning, middle, and end. Alright? So as I close, as I finish up, pwede ninyong tingnan to mga, these are just some of the many tools that you can use to tell stories. Marami po dyan free, or may yung iba paid, of course. Yung iba maraming free options. Adobe Spark Video, yung nakita ninyong samples kanina, sobrang daling gawin at gamitin. So you might want to try playing around with that. And as I end, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to leave you some techniques for storytelling in the classroom. First of all, have a hero and an enemy. Hindi naman kailangan bida kontra bida, pero kailangan may humahadlang sa hero ninyo, sa character ninyo. Use conflict. Remember, people will only want to listen to your story if they want to know how the character overcomes the conflicts. So use conflict. Omit any irrelevant details. Huwag natin lunurin sa detalye ang mga bagay-bagay na hindi naman pala ganun ka-importante. So tell the story quickly. Remember, 300 words lang ang budget natin. Tell the story like you talk. So magkwento ka kung paano ka magkwento. Huwag ka mag-imbento ng bagong personality para lang makapagkwento. Fake yun at walang nakikinig ng fake na kwento. Make it visual. So use pictures, use gestures, or if you have to tell the story through voice, like what I'm doing now, make it colorful enough so that people can see things in their mind or can build the story in their mind. So nagiging visual. Make it personal and easy to relate to. Talk about things that your audiences know and understand. Kahit kailangan mong i-parallel yung kwento mo sa alam nilang konteksto. And then make sure there's a transformation. Remember na kailangan may change, may transformation in the journey between point A and point B. Number 8, add spice. Humor, metaphor, action, voices, music. Make it interesting, make it different. Engage people. Make them want to listen to the story. And last but not the least, and the most important, is have a clear learning moment. Your stories are there in the classroom for a reason, for people to learn. So, kailangan malinaw yung learning moment or malinaw yung paghuhugutan natin ng ating pag-uusapan as a learning moment. Ito po yung tema ng ating kwento, ang tema ng ating talk. So, with that, yun. So, that's mine. I hope that one malinaw-linaw. And back to studio, Twinkle and Mark and company. Ayun.
Hi, sorry. So, eto po yung mga sinasawag natin na technical difficulties in the middle of. So, but eto, anyway, yung one of the questions that was thrown to us earlier is the availability of the materials in terms of crafting digital stories. Some are asking, is this for free? Is this something that we can get online? What can we do to help our teachers, to onboard our teachers and our learners para po maka-access sila dun sa mga platforms and mga tools?
Okay. As I said, maraming free platforms. Ang dami. And pansin nyo yung kanina, yung isang, I think yung Talino, may Adobe Spark na watermark. That's because gumamit kami ng free account. So, nagawa namin ina-achieve namin yung paggawa ng kwento, kahit may watermark, it's no issue to us or to the creator. Ang dami pong simple Google, best storytelling apps. Lalabas yan. Sobrang daming listahan. So, how do we teach our teachers? Well, there's maraming apps, marami ding iba't ibang ituturo. Explore, and then whatever is best for you, whatever you feel the most comfortable using, gamitin nyo. Wala namang mali. Nasa objective yan, ano ang gusto natin ituro at paano natin siyang gustong ituro para ma-maximize. Pati PowerPoint pwedeng gamitin kung talagang nais ninyo.
Okay po. Another question po, this concerns naman in general online learning. So, we've learned today that, of course, learning experience design is helpful for educators so that they can onboard their students. Tapos naman, itong digital storytelling naman is a way also to promote critical thinking inside the online classroom. Of course, kasi itong issue nila ngayon, may mga nagsasabi ng online learning is devoid of emotions, parang walang self-expression. So how can we address those kinds of issues? And of course, para ma-address din natin yung mga special learning needs ng mga bata. So say for example, if I have a special learning need, if I'm say for example, dyslexic or probably I have the attention deficit disorder, what strategies can I explore or probably apply in my online classroom? Parang ganyan. Can we hear from Ms. Leia? So if in terms of learning experience design. Kasi kanina po you mentioned about parang personalizing and crafting to
personalizing
learners.
So
is it also with the...
I think na-mention ko yan kanina. I mean, when I presenting the pain points of my students, because I have a lot of students who are really, who are, I mean, meron silang mga mental health issues, may mga anxiety issues sila. Pero nung nag-online learning kami last March, April, May, parang feeling ko maging close kami. I think it's just a matter of, I mean, how you will communicate to your students. I mean, it's just a matter of being sincere kung paano ka nagbibigay ng directions or instructions sa kanila. Of course, meron kang material dyan na syempre hindi naman mo pwedeng gawing sincere yung presentation mo. But then, when you deliver it to them, ayun, yun yung manner of delivery and the manner also of explaining things to them. Especially kapag yung mga chat lang, yung mga simple chat nyo lang. I mean, dapat hindi mo iisipin na, sumunod ka. Oh, ito gawin mo, parang gano'n. Parang kailangan as in talagang iisipin mo na I mean, kailangan mong maging sensitive. Ayun, kailangan mong maging sensitive and sincere with your instructions, directions, and communication.
Thank you, Ms. Leia. How about you, Sir Jag? In terms of digital storytelling, how can we address these types of learning needs or special learning needs naman ng mga estudyante natin?
Well, I'll take it from two perspectives. No, first of all, from the teacher's perspective, yung sa isang live classroom, 40 ang estudyante mo, you do not have a choice. You're forced as a teacher na maging generalist. So ibig sabihin, hindi ka pwedeng magkaroon ng 40 individual learning responses, di ba? You do your best. Good teachers do their best to respond to individual students, pero hindi siya practical on a minute-to-minute basis. Babalik at babalik ka sa general. So, sa online environment, a sensitive teacher can actually provide individualized instruction halos. Kasi kung hirap ako makinig, may attention deficit disorder ako, for instance, hindi ako nakakakinig ng lecture ng 1 oras ng dire-diretso sa classroom. Hindi ako mapakali. Pag video lecture yan, pwede ako mag-pause. Diba? So, it can respond. It can. Hindi ko sinasabi nagre-respond. It can respond. Now, perspective naman ng estudyante. Kung shy ako, introvert ako, or meron akong stuttering, diba? So, ang classmates ko, high school, diba? High school kids, very mahilig mang-asar. So, hindi ako nagsasalita kasi aasarin ako, lolokohin nila ako. I will not speak. I will not recite. But a digital story or a story might allow me to speak. A voice, to give voice without them laughing at me. Pwede ako mag-fail in the safety of my bedroom, of my room with my phone. I'll fail there, aayusin ko lahat. Paglabas sa classroom, maayos na, hindi ako nag-fail in front of the public. So I think it's online or electronic learning, digital learning provides so many opportunities na kailangan lang natin i-explore. Kasi kung babalik tayo sa traditional classroom techniques at ginawa lang nating digital, kung anong disservice natin sa estudyante natin sa classroom, disservice natin sa kanila sa digital realm, and vice versa. The greatness of a teacher in a classroom, in a live classroom, can be multiplied 1 million-fold in a digital environment.
Thank you, Sir Jag. Very interesting ideas from our speakers, no? So, any last message for our viewers? Kasi at this point po, I'm sure everyone has been preparing is preparing for the start of classes. Lahat ng mga ka-eskwela natin sa grade school, high school, even sa tertiary and graduate levels, they have so much. They've learned so much from this session. And what's your last message for them? Kumbaga, inspire them on how to make their digital learning experience parang more fruitful and interesting. Miss Leia.
Okay, ako parang 20 years na akong nagtuturo. Sabi ko nga sa mga estudyante ko, ito lagi ko sinasabi sa kanila, natutunan ko to sa college professor ko na parang something, sabi niya. It's just a matter of proper courtesy. You respect me, I respect you. So, kahit sa online ganun din yung ginagawa ko. I mean, it's just a matter of it's a two-way process. I mean, I learn, hindi lang yung mga estudyante ko yung natututo sa akin, but ako rin natututo sa kanila. So it's a two-way process. So it's just a matter of respecting what we are feeling, especially ngayong mga panahon na to. And yung manner, ayun nga, paulit-ulit ko sinasabi, it's just a manner of how you will communicate things to your students na makakonsume nila or madadigest nila or tatatak sa kanila. Something like that. So, just be natural, just be yourself. Ako, as in, be sincere as you are. Kung ano ka, what you see is what you get. Hindi mo kailangan mag-transform into something na para lang ma-impress sila. So, yan lang.
Thank you, Miss Dea. Sir Jag.
Siguro tayo, let's be reflexive. Tingnan natin kung ano yung pinakahilig natin. Bakit tayo nag-i-enjoy ng for example, Facebook? Diba? Or bakit ka nag-i-enjoy ng games mo? Ba't mo na-enjoy Mobile Legends, Dota, whatever? What is it? Not the game itself or not the experience, but what is the experience that you enjoy from it? Baka sa Facebook gusto mo yung chismis. Marami laging chismis. So, ibig sabihin, mahilig ka sa chismis. Leverage on that. Baka mas mag-respond. Yung sinasabi ni Leia, be natural eh. So, kung mahilig ka sa chismis, pero ang lesson mo, you're coming across as nagkukwento. Hindi ko naman sinabi, i-chismis ninyo yung kapitbahay ninyo. Pero, if you come up, diba, you leverage on that. So, the experience, nawawala yung digital sa pagiging digital. Medium na lang ang digital. Pero when you take the digitalness, tinatanggalin nyo yung makina, sa medium, tao pa rin ang dumarating. So we forget what the medium is, and then we're hearing the stories, we're hearing the people, we're transmitting the learning. So wag natin isipin na ang sagot sa pandemic education is a technological response. Teaching is still teaching. Use the medium to teach. Do not make the medium teach for you.
Thank you, Sir Jack.
Teacher ka pa rin. Thank
Yes,
you.
Yan. Para sa akin naman, mga ka-eskwela, what we're trying to revisit here during our previous sessions, during my first presentation, I mentioned 3 things. Technology is secondary. So, unahin po natin yung leverage natin with, let's bank on number 1, pedagogy. Number 2, the curriculum. You already have that. As a teacher, you already have the capacity to teach. Yung third po is technology. Let's maximize whatever we have. It does not mean na wala kayong alam sa technology for now, ay hindi na kayo makakapagturo. All the more that we need to maximize our skills and of course be open. It's a change of mindset and culture as well in order for us to embrace this new norm. Kasi if we would always think about, babalik pa ba yung bagong natin? Babalik pa ba yung bagong or yung dating ways natin of teaching? Hindi na siya mangyayari. So at this point, let's try to do whatever we can. Let's work on what we have and make sure that as educators and as teachers, we give the best to our students. So maraming salamat po. I'll see you in 2 weeks. You will be joined by 2 esteemed speakers again in the next installment of Eskwela. For Eskwela 6, we'll be featuring the learning management system and the capacity and the power of learning management system on how to make sure that your schools are ready for flexible learning setup. So again, this is Mark Ablos, and I'll see you guys in June 5th. On June 5th. See you. Bye. Thank you.